Hello my dear friends, and welcome back to another Star Wars video. Today we have a triple whammy of Star Wars updates, and we're going to begin with the Mandalorian and Grogu. So, as you're probably aware, news and rumours for the next Star Wars movie have been coming thick and fast, and today we have more. Something we've known for a while now is that Sigourney Weaver is going to be in the film, but we didn't know who she was going to play. But now thanks to Jeff Snyder, we do have some information. Sigourney Weaver is going to be part of the New Republic, not the Remnant, as some fans theorized. And her character's name, Colonel Bishop, is a direct reference to a character from the Alien franchise, which of course Sigourney Weaver is best known for, as Ellen Ripley. And while close to no information is known about her, according to Bespin Bulletin, she likes to play Sabacc, and they also note she doesn't have much screen time in the film, so she's not a main character. And look, I have to be entirely honest with you, I'm really bummed out by this. Sigourney Weaver is a legend of the industry. I'm a huge Aliens fan. That is one of the best sequels I think of all time, right up there with The Empire Strikes Back. And yet, from the sounds of this report, they're going to Christopher Lloyd her. I hope they don't waste a valuable cameo, but I've got a bad feeling about this. And you might say, well Meg, she isn't going to play the same action role from the 70s and 80s, but I would say look at her recent work. She is still such a powerful, dynamic actress. And that's not even the argument I'm making. I'm saying given her phenomenal acting chops, she could play the perfect, complex Imperial Remnant. Someone who fills the shoes of Moff Gideon, but isn't linked necessarily to Thrawn's faction. It just feels like a New Republic colonel is very underwhelming. And if you think back to the original casting announcement, they made it sound as though Sigourney Weaver was going to have a major role in this movie. They said it's the Mandalorian and Grogu featuring Sigourney Weaver. And for all we know, that was her decision. Just throw me in for a scene or two. And if that turns out to be the situation and we find out behind the scenes, I kind of wish they hadn't told us in advance. It would have been a nice surprise in the theatre on the day. Furthermore, my dear friends, according to Jeff Snyder, Jon Favreau got sick for a few weeks during filming, and so in terms of directing duties, he had help from Kim Richards, Peter Ramsey, and unsurprisingly, Dave Filoni. I know Bespin Bulletin have some more information they're going to share at a later date. So far the leaks have been pretty eyebrow-raising. Embo, Rot of the Hutt, and like I say, probably more surprises to come. But now my dear friends, we're gonna talk about Skeleton Crew. We finally know what species Neel is. In a brand new interview with Chris Ford and John Watts, they finally spilled the beans. Neel and his family are Mikians. It might be pronounced Meekians or Mykians because we already have Mikians with an I, the Jedi sisters Tiplar and Tipli from the Clone Wars series. Considering the similarities between the species spellings, I think the Lucasfilm story group should have said something about this. Either way, my dear friends, it's official canon. Neel is a Meekian, and he was one of the best parts of Skeleton Crew, so they've debunked that he's an Ortolan. Any speculation that Neel and his siblings and his mum and dad were related to Max Rebo, that is officially not the case, but maybe Mikians and Ortolans in some ways are related. And while we're on the subject, I'm keeping my fingers crossed. Lucasfilm announces a second season. We have so many questions that need answering, ones that I think season 1 should have answered. What happened to Wim's mother? How did the Onyx Cinder become buried on Atatin in the first place? What's next for Jod? Who trained Jod? What's in the cards now for the children? Now that the secrets have been exposed, how is society on Atatin going to change? What kind of lives are they going to live? Are they going to work for the New Republic? How did this adventure change the children? And bringing it back to Neel, did he finally muster up the courage to talk to Runa? Deciding to remove the barrier was a pretty big deal. How is the rest of the population going to be okay with it? And to my mind, the secrets of Atatin are deeper than we think. There is more to the Old Republic Mint. And is there more to the Great Work? If you've not done so guys, I highly recommend you check out my video from yesterday, where I go in depth about the New Republic's relationship to Atatin. And one more thing, who's going to be in charge of Atatin? Whether they join the New Republic or they don't, are they going to replace the supervisor? Will one of the parents take over, maybe under Secretary Farah, or will the New Republic send someone? Lots of fascinating questions. At a later date, Lucasfilm surely needs to return to these stories and characters. There is still so much meat on that bone. But moving on, my dear friends, it's been a while since we've had any news surrounding the Bad Batch. The third and final season came out nearly a year ago, and since, we've been waiting to hear official word on the next animated Star Wars project. but considering Star Wars Celebration is just around the corner, we're probably going to find out then. But in the meantime guys, we do have a very obscure update. So you may or may not be familiar with Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes. It's a mobile RPG video game that was really popular around 2015, 16, 17, pretty much during that period just before The Last Jedi when there was a lot of fan excitement, before all of the modern controversies. There are still a ton of players on that game, but I would say the biggest boom, the highest peak of that game has come and gone. But to this day, it's still updated, and they add new characters all the time. And one of the more recent ones is Omega, from the Bad Batch's 3rd season. It's not grown-up Omega from the final scene, this isn't her during the time of the rebellion, this is when she's still a kid. So from the 2nd and 3rd seasons, and from the looks of things, on Pabu. A while ago they already gave us her season 1 look, but now we have the later seasons Omega, or as the game calls it, Omega Fugitive. And Star Wars fans, pretty unhappy. While the photo isn't strictly live action, it is the most lifelike depiction of the character so far, and while if she does come into live action, she'll be the older version of Omega, photos like this might be seen as good indicators of the kind of look Lucasfilm is after. And in response to this, many fans took great issue with the way she's portrayed. Because she's a clone of Jango Fett, she's meant to look more like a female version of Temuera Morrison. And so many fans on social media are insisting, if they do bring her into something live action, the actress who plays her needs to be a New Zealander and needs to be Maori. And in my opinion, the perfect person to play her is right there, Keisha Castle-Hughes, who was the voice of Emery Carr, another clone from the Bad Batch, and she was also Queen Apelana at the end of Revenge of the Sith. But considering she was very much a background character, I don't think fans would make too much of a fuss if she also played a grown-up version of Omega. And I will say this, my dear friends, I have a hunch Omega is going to appear in Ahsoka Season 2. Off-screen, I can imagine them retconning her to have been part of the Galactic Civil War, and later in the timeline she's part of the New Republic. Season 1 established and set up a strong friendship between Omega and Hera Syndulla, and I reckon Dave Filoni's going to pay that off in live action. Who knows, maybe she'll appear in another animated show first. But I predict the live-action version is coming. But some Star Wars fans are protesting this iteration. Some have even said it looks like AI. Others pointed out, shouldn't she just look like Daniel Logan but with blonde hair? I don't think it's that deep, but as long as they can do the character justice, when she does come into live action, a good actress, an emotionally complex character, that would be great. But you know, every time Omega comes up, there are fans who just don't like this character, and that's fine. I think across the 3 seasons, she had a great arc, learnt a lot, matured, became brave, instilled hope in children from the Vault on Tantis, and I'm very invested in the future of the character if she comes into live action as a rebel pilot. I will say though, for me personally, the Bad Batch Season 2 had a bit of a dip, but Season 3 was absolutely amazing. What do you guys think? Let me know down below. And if you enjoyed this video, please be sure to give me a big fat thumbs up, subscribe if you're new, check me out on socials, and may the Force be with you, always.